Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. If you're benefiting from the Young Smirks podcast, please consider supporting us on the Patreon below. Go to the link, support £5, £10, £20 a month. It really helps us produce the podcast, edit the podcast, produce the thumbnails, etc. All these things need to be taken care of. I'm relying on your support to get this job done. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
إنك لا تهدي من أحببت ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء.
So after now finding Sunni Islam, did you just kind of write, oh, alhamdulillah, I found the correct Aqidah and everything? Or was there also a transitional kind of period there? I mean, how was your Islam developed within Sunni Islam?
Okay, so what happened there was...
Because obviously you've studied philosophy, you've studied, a lot of these things, Christianity and a lot of depth.
different religions and stuff.
So, you're well read on a lot of these topics. How did that also play a part in your journey?
So what I said to myself from the beginning, and I want to make this clear because you asked about, do these people have community and masajid? Yeah. We don't. We had our little cult that we had like 15 people that we met up with.
Tea and biscuits.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But we didn't have a masjid. And so I didn't used to go to masajid, right? Never went to the mosque. So I told myself, Jake, you're not going to make the same mistake. You're going to go to the scholars, right? I had this thought now. You're going to go to the scholars or people you think are scholars at the time and try to sit down and learn from them. So the first thing I did was I contacted one of my arch nemesis, who at the time was a proper Sunni. And now I know he was a proper Sunni. And he used to give dawah at a train station because I grew up in New Jersey. So there was a very popular train station that connected directly Jersey City to New York City. And you can be literally, because that's where I went to university and grew up, you could literally be in New York City in 10 minutes, right? One train directly connecting. So it's a very busy area, and that's why the Muslims giving dawah there, right? So I used to go there. Remember, I used to try to sabotage him. I would argue with this guy day and night, right? And when I became Sunni, I gave him a call, or I contacted him. I said, listen, bro, alhamdulillah, I became Sunni. He was shocked, called me, and we were discussing. So yeah, I spoke to this friend who I used to battle with back and forth when I was hadith rejector, and he was so happy, and I said to him, bro, I want to start going to the mosque. I explained to him where I was living because I was no longer living where I used to before by the time, because a few years later. And I said, can you hook me up with somebody? And at the time, I had been digging into Sunni Islam a little bit myself. How we have different madhab of fiqh, like Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali, right? Yeah. These are the four schools. And I said, I really want to, go into this and learn my deen. And at the time, and I still, for the most part, feel this way, is that what made sense to me was the Maliki madhab, right? And the reason why, from just a simplistic point of view, is it's known as the madhab of Medina, right? Yeah. Ahl al-Medina, the people of Medina. And I read into that and certain proofs that they had and things like that. I was convinced by it because a lot of the companions, I believe, stayed in Medina and in that area. And so some which were proper fuqaha and really had knowledge of the religion and were teaching their students. So I really was attracted to this madhab based on that sort of principle. And so I told my friend, I said, I want to go to a masjid and I want to start studying Maliki fiqh, right? I didn't even know about this aqidah stuff and different, sort of madhabs when it comes to aqidah, but I said, I knew about fiqh a little bit, and I said, I'm kind of convinced on Maliki, so I want to study Maliki fiqh, right? So he says, all right, bro, I'm going to search for you and whatever. He searches for me. He finds a masjid for me where there's somebody there that teaches Maliki fiqh. So I started going there, and I started studying Maliki fiqh there with a teacher, and it was good. I did learn a lot. But, and this is where things get a little bit more controversial, that teacher also taught other things and taught things related to Aqidah, which is more the belief of the Muslims in terms of our theology and what we're supposed to believe supposedly about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and these things. And he's what's called an Ashari, you know, and I'm sure your audience will be familiar with that. And there are different, we can call it schools, right? You have the mainstream schools, which are Ashari, Maturidi, and then what would sometimes go by Athari or Ahl Hadith or Salafi, basically different names for the same kind of thing, right? So I didn't really know much about these differences, because mind you, I'm coming from Hadith rejection background. I don't know this. I just found out about the Madhabs of Fikh. I'm interested in Maliki Madhab. So I'm just taking classes on Fiqh, but I see there's other things about Aqidah and stuff like that. And so then I start doing my own research online. And honestly, bro, I can say this fully and truly. Although my teacher was teaching me things in Maliki Fiqh, when I found out what the Asharis believed, and he was Ashari, I never believed in it. I never believed in it. Never. I was never an Ashari, right? I can say that honestly.
Father, bro,
I may have.
We've got so many similarities without
Yeah, I may have had
something very similar. Yeah.
I may have had certain confusions here and there,
exactly,
or I may have had like unknowingly a couple beliefs that are really Ashari that I didn't know.
Sometimes you may even articulate something the wrong way, but you don't mean that.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. But there were some things that I knew based on my research, and then I went to my teacher and asked him about, that I knew was definitively Ashari. To be an Ashari, you have to believe in this, and this is kind of fundamental stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me, right? So I told my teacher from the beginning, I was nice. I said, listen, Sheikh, you know, you're teaching me things, I'm learning a lot, but I said, is it okay if I study with you and I don't believe this Ashari kind of stuff? He's like, oh, what's your problem? So I gave him like one or two examples. I said, you know, from my research, Asharis believe this and this. And isn't that correct? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, but what's your problem with it? So I explained it to him, why I believe it contradicts Quran and Sunnah, why I believe it contradicts my basic fitrah and understanding, right? And I said, so I'm telling you, I told him this, I remember. He actually invited me to, because he has his own podcast, he invited me to record a podcast on the hadith rejectors, right? Because he knew I had a lot of information and I had, you know, some good arguments to bring, and he interviewed me mainly about that. And I remember it was in his basement in his house. And after the interview, I said, Sheikh, you know, this is a good interview and stuff like that. I said, I just want to let you know, I'm just telling you this, right? Because I don't want it to be confusing. I said, I will never become an Ashari. He said, why? And I said, you know, aren't they supposed to believe this? And he said, yeah. I said, to me, it doesn't make any sense, contradicts fitrah, contradicts Quran and Sunnah. I'm telling you, I'm never going to believe in this. If that's going to be a problem between us, it is what it is, but, you know, I'm not going to believe in it. He said, oh, don't, and I think he thought he was going to kind of bring me along. So he's like, no, don't really worry about it. You know, we'll talk about that another time, but it's no big deal. But in reality, that belief of rejecting that, and I remember that specific example, according to them, would be bid'ah. Like, they would think that I'm a deviant because of that belief. So anyway, I for like another couple years, I was going to this masjid and just learning the fiqh, just learning the Maliki fiqh. I had a Quran teacher as well, different like Quran teacher, who I was learning how to read and recite Quran and memorize and stuff like that. And that's basically it. I was just learning like that, going there, being a part of the community and stuff. And it was diverse.
That's interesting, because so you studied philosophy before Islam then? Because a lot of people assume, because of your level of knowledge in philosophy, that you got that from the Ashari.
No.
But you actually knew that before Islam.
Yeah, because what happened was, or slightly before and then right around, because I became a Muslim. I took Shahada like freshman year of university, right? Like right when I first was in uni. And initially, my major or my bachelor's degree was in criminal justice, in law. I wanted to become a lawyer, right? So they had told me, because I don't know how it is in the UK, because the education system's a little bit different, But the way it works in the US is that you have the ability, if you want, to do what's called double majoring. So you can major in 2 degrees or fields at the same time, right? But most people don't do that. And what they told me is if you want to become a lawyer, it's good to major in law or criminal justice and philosophy at the same time, because it helps you with critical thinking and these kind of things, so that when you apply to law school, that'll look good on your resume, right? So that's what I did. I double majored in law and philosophy.
I studied law and psychology.
Okay, yeah. So similar.
Yeah, similar.
Yeah, close, right? So that's what happened. And then right around the same time, I also converted to Islam. So then I was very interested in the philosophy classes, because I had like philosophy of religion. I had metaphysics. I had studied logic, all these different kind of things, right? And so it was kind of a little bit before, and then like simultaneously, I became more interested. But at the time, I didn't know anything about Ashari. Keep in mind, this is when I was like a naive hadith rejecter. But I was learning all this stuff about Christianity and different religions and theology and stuff, right? So yeah, just so people are clear on the timeline. Then when I became Sunni years later, I didn't know anything about Ashari, this and that and that. But again, kind of similar to when I was supposedly a Christian, I never believed in these kind of Ashari doctrines, at least most of them I didn't have any idea or believe in. And so when I actually started to learn about them, and it took a little bit of time, over a couple year period, but then I said, oh, actually I am an Athari, because I found out what they actually truly believed, and I realized I already pretty much believe all of that. There were 1 or 2 things that I had a little hang up on, but other than that, I already pretty much believed in everything. So I never, and a lot of people, as you said, don't know this.
They assume
that I used to be an
Ashari.
Yeah, I used to be an Ashari.
Especially because you studied Maliki Fiqh.
Yeah,
you just assume, okay.
I never had a phase as an Ashari, never, right? So, and this teacher who has a public platform, he could call me out and say if I'm lying, but I know that it's not the case, and he would agree with that. It never happened. And
just to clarify for the viewers, we don't have an issue with any of the madhahib. If somebody wants to follow a particular madhab, they have their evidences, etc. The only issue is in this day and age, by studying a particular madhab, there's more chance of also coming into contact with the Ashari Aqidah or the Maturidi Aqidah if you're following a particular fiqh. So that's why sometimes people might warn against studying a particular fiqh. It's not because of the fiqh itself, it's because of the modern teachers.
The teacher,
around that.
Let's explain that. So like the Hanafis today, and we're not talking historically, that'll be a different story. But Hanafis today, most of their so-called scholars in Hanafi fiqh are Maturidi, or some of them, a minority, are Ashari, right? Then when it comes to Maliki and Shafi'i, unfortunately, and I don't believe that this was early on, because we don't believe any of the Imams actually followed Maturidi or Ashari Aqidah, right? They came before those things, and we believe they were upon the correct Aqidah, right? Exactly. But today, unfortunately, the madhahib and the so-called scholars from them today, those who teach Maliki and Shafi'i fiqh, most of them are Asharis. That's the reality. Okay. Then we have the Hanabila, which for the most part have stayed upon the Aqidah of Imam Ahmed and didn't deviate. But even today, we have a minority of them where there's a split, and to be clear, I believe it is a minority of these people who call themselves Hanabila and teach Hanbali fiqh are people who what we would call mufawwidh, right? They believe in tafweed, and they say that the madhab of Imam Ahmed was on tafweed, which means they affirm the attributes, but they say they don't know the meaning of them, which we believe is wrong, right? But for the most part, the people who claim to be Hanabila, they still teach the correct Aqidah, right? So that's kind of the division. So we say, if you, as you pointed out, we don't have a problem with the madhahib and fiqh, right? each one of them have their own evidences, and you know, it's really for the scholars to, in my view, what I believe is the correct view, is that it's really for the scholars to go into that and discuss. And you know, if you become a student of knowledge and you learn more, then yeah, you can kind of go into some of those things, right? But it's not for somebody who just becomes a Muslim, he doesn't know these kind of things. So, but the point is that those teachers, especially for the first three madhahib of Hanafi, Maliki, and Shafi'i, and not all 100%, because I know some Malikis, or especially in Morocco, like I'm here living in Morocco, I know some bona fide Maliki fiqh teachers who are not Ashari, right?
Even like the Somali community for the Shafi'i, you know,
exactly,
and even in Egypt.
Yeah, you can find it. You can find it, but there is a large contingent within those that, as you said, the potential concern is, especially for a new Muslim who doesn't know this, you study fiqh with these teachers like I did, and then you could kind of get trapped into them not forcing you, but just kind of naturally they start teaching their aqidah to you, right? And then that can misguide people. So that's the concern.
And there's a famous quote somewhere on the lines of, you know, because you speak to these people and you're not clued up.
Yeah.
You know, they say you're the fiqh of your last teacher, right? Because they'll convince you. You know, you go to a Maliki scholar, a Shafi scholar, you know, or Ashari sheikh, you know, they're the professionals in their field. And as somebody without that knowledge, you could be convinced, you know. So you got to, you know, be aware of that.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, I mean, that's for, you know, people, inshallah, especially the new Muslims, to try to navigate. And then what I would say is, if possible, you know, sometimes it's very difficult, but I think really people should try their best, that if you want to learn the fiqh, that's one thing of one of the madhahib or even multiple to kind of compare. That's fine, but try, if you can, to find a teacher who also teaches ethadi aqidah, right? So that way there's no really chance of you being misguided in that way. And if you can't find it in person, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find it online. There's plenty of resources, you know, and I don't want to give any shameless plugs, but you can do the research and find stuff, you know, inshallah. So that's my recommendation for people. But yeah, so then eventually, once I realized I'm an ethari, then I slowly, I still studied the Maliki fiqh with that teacher, but eventually, slowly, I realized this isn't going to really work out. And then I stopped going to that masjid and stopped even studying fiqh with that teacher. But I still maintained a friendly, cordial relationship with him to the point that when I began, you know, feeling that I'm capable of speaking about these things more so publicly, and I wrote articles, before I even released certain videos or articles, I sent it to him and I said, here, give me your critique. I want to know what's the Ashari critique. Even met with him over lunch, discussed certain things for several hours, and he even agreed with some of my arguments, actually, that I made in some of my articles. I haven't talked to him in a little while because we had a little bit of public dispute, but
you know, this is maybe we can go into this because there's a lot of back and forth between Asharis and Atharis, or Asharis, Salafis, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of the time, it's the Salafis get accused of being the tough ones who are you know, causing the fitna, and that's not the reality of things. It comes, you know, it comes a lot from both sides. You know,
there's a lot of antagonism.
And it's not needed. And something I've noticed recently with you, you've had some great conversations with Asharis. The brother, I forgot his name, the Ashari.
Nuruddin al-Rashid.
But subhanAllah, that is a beautiful way of actually engaging academically and actually learning about each other's differences and actually hearing each other's answers, where you still kind of have a level of brotherhood there. You know, it's like, at the end of the day, we're Muslims. You know, we're not, you know, we're Muslims. But I don't like the way a lot of it goes where, you know, there's certain individuals, without naming them, from the Ashari side, they're saying certain things about these scholars and that scholars. And you just can't have any type of unity with this type of attitude. But when what we're seeing with your recent interaction is that it can be done. We can have these conversations. in a polite way.
Yeah, and I want to say from the outset for people here, because I know very clearly my limits, my limitations, who I am. I'm not a scholar. I'm not a sheikh. I'm not at all. I'll be happy to be considered a da'i, right? Hopefully, inshallah. Or a very, very beginning student of knowledge, okay? So I'm not the most knowledgeable person, certainly not in the Arab-speaking world, and definitely not even the English-speaking world. But unfortunately, this is a reality, many of the scholars, especially from the ethody side, they can't be bothered with this, okay? They want to engage with people because of what you said. They know there's a lot of toxicity in the public sphere. They want to engage with people in private, or they want to engage with people publicly who are sincere. They're just not, the scholars are not interested in wasting time. They're concerned with the ilm, the knowledge and the ibadah, and they don't have time for this foolishness, right? So what I try to do, and I'm far from perfect, I try to take what little I know from the scholars and try to bring that to people and try to package it in a simple way or explain things in a certain way. Now, to say that I'm not part of that toxicity would be a lie, right? I have, maybe been too harsh at times, or said things in a way that I shouldn't, or spoke to people in a certain way. And I don't mean to justify it, but this is the honest reality is, I feel that it partially is a reaction to the Asharis. It's not all of them, some of them, and what they're doing. And I believe that, look, if you guys want to act that way and be very harsh with us, then I think that in certain circumstances, there is room for being harsh with them, right? Or being very bold and straightforward. But do I do that correctly all the time? Definitely not, right? So I have to be better with that. And it's a good thing that you mentioned. More recently, I've been trying to extend an olive branch, and for people who I do believe are sincere and are not looking for gotchas and want to try to get down to the truth and have a good conversation, I can do it. Like even this former teacher of mine, right? We had good conversations. Like it's not like I'm takfiring these people and saying I'm never talk to you or anything like that. You know, if you show respect, we have good conversations in private or public. Let's do it.
What's good about it is we actually learn something from that.
Exactly.
It's not just like.
And a lot of people, bro, I'll tell you right now, from when this was recorded, I don't know when it will be released, but from when it was recorded, I just came back from Morocco, and I just came from a masjid in Connecticut that I was invited to. The people there, bro, don't know at all. Did not know that it's a relatively small community. Didn't know them whatsoever, right? So the imam of the masjid, he's Salafi, messages me on Facebook. I have no idea who the guy is. Messages me on Facebook, says, "Hey, brother Jake, long story short, we want to invite you to the mosque to give a lecture about, how to give dawah to your neighbors who are Christian and stuff like that." And I'm like, "Oh, it just so happens I'm in New Jersey. I'll drive up with a friend of mine. Don't worry about anything. We'll be there. So we planned it out, and before I got there, I talked to him again on the phone, and he goes, "Brother Jake, do you know why I'm inviting you? Or what really, turned me on to inviting you?" I said, "No." I said, "No, Sheikh, I have no idea." Because he wanted me to give a lecture, but then they're also starting their own podcast, and he wanted to interview me. And he sent me a list of all the interview questions, and they're really good. And he says, "We do appreciate your, if I can say, hopefully without arrogance, some level of knowledge or expertise in Christianity, and we think the community can benefit from that. We've been watching your videos for a long time, and we've been using certain points from your da'wah. But what really turned us on to inviting you is your recent conversations with that Ashari guy, Sheikh Nuruddin al-Rashid. We said, wow, if you can sit down and have those conversations, they were so beneficial.
Yeah.
We played it for our students, right, and everything. And when we saw that, we said, oh, we really want to invite this guy. So I'm just bringing that up to say, yeah, people have benefited from it. They really enjoyed it because there's not that many conversations like that available online. That's reality. Not because I'm special, but It's just for one reason or another, there's too much toxicity, too much antagonism, too much misunderstanding, talking past one another. And I'm not going to say this bad about Brother Nuruddin al-Rashid, but, and I think he will admit this, right? Like, many points throughout the conversation, he actually conceded.
Right.
He agreed with me to the point where he gave me permission after our first conversation. I said, you know, here, I have this issue with something that you said in another video. I think you're misrepresenting the scholars. And, you know, I said it in the politest way. He said, you know what, Jake, make a video. I want you to make a video about that. And then I'll watch it, make it public, and then we'll have another conversation talking about your criticism of me. Yeah. I said, okay. I did that. I put it out, sent it to him. We came back. We had a second conversation specifically about that. And the first thing I did was I said, I believe you misrepresented Imam al-Tabari, one of the great scholars of tafsir. And I said, here's why, right? And I explained it in the video and why I don't think you're fair and stuff like that. And he actually conceded and agreed. And I'm not saying this to anything. I'm saying that to say that when we come together, you know, not like happy-go-lucky. Everybody knows I'm not that one of those guys that are saying we need unity for the sake of it, that we just come together and say, oh yeah, we really agree, or, you know, we're really just, everything's the same. No, it's not like that. But when he actually understood my position, and when I gave him a truly academic critique to show him he's not correctly representing Imam al-Tabari, or he doesn't have the correct view and this and that, he agreed with me. He said, Jake, I want to say from the beginning, I appreciate what you said, and I agree. Now, that doesn't mean we agreed on everything throughout the conversation. We still had disagreements and still do now. And by the way, I don't know when this will be released, but I'm planning on having another conversation with him about something that I believe is extremely important topic. And I don't believe, based on right now, that we fully agree, but I think that we'll have a good conversation and people will benefit and learn something from this, inshallah.
Look, I believe anyone, any sincere person, when they hear, like we said about the hadith, if you don't know what it means, you're going to have a doubt. You know, when we first came to Islam, we're hearing these things about the hadith. We need an explanation. And that's the issue with the Aqidah issue, because they just misunderstand the Athari.
Yeah, a lot of it,
They think we, you know...
And honestly, here's the other thing,
They don't understand what we mean, our articulation, they don't understand the points. When they understand it, I mean, we don't need to go into that, but, you know, I mean, ironically, Yasser Qadi, you know, with Al-Maghrib, he made a whole generation of Pakistanis in the UK, like Salafi and Aqidah and Fikh, without them even knowing, you know, because, you know, originally...
Because of the way he was preaching and teaching.
Yeah, because that's what they were teaching, without the titles, because the Fitra understands it. Once you explain these things, you know, obviously it's very different now, but that's it. When it's presented in an easy way to understand, and you're not making the other one out as the bogeyman, then people can learn. And that was the beauty of these conversations that you're having, because people can actually hear our explanation.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's so important. And again, not to go into too many details about the differences and all this, because, you know, probably
I think what it is as well, sorry to cut you, from the Athari side, a lot of, because some of the Atharis did a lot don't have the philosophy background as well, so sometimes they can be a bit intimidated by having it toe to toe, because they don't want to misrepresent or be caught out with philosophy, but because you have that background as well, you have that confidence to actually engage with them sometimes.
Because
it's not necessarily the knowledge, it's more, you know...
No, it's technical jargon, right?
Exactly,
because with any kind of field, whether it be law or medicine or philosophy or whatever, especially in English, it's not just being fluid in English, it's having a knowledge and understanding of how to use technical jargon. It's not because they're correct, it's that sometimes a person may not know how to respond. Why? Because they don't even know what the person is saying. Like, they don't understand the words that they're using. So yeah, it's not that because I'm more knowledgeable or anything like that.
And even in terms of the way we articulate the Aqidah, you'll be aware that if you say something which might be fine to say, well, they're going to hear it in a different way.
It may be misunderstood.
So you'll present it in a slightly different way because you know where they're coming from.
Exactly.
It's very important to have these.
It'll be, exactly. So some of the shuyukh or students of knowledge who are much more knowledgeable than me, but primarily they're in the Arabic-speaking world, they don't, especially if they're not fluent in English, they don't know how to transport and translate some of those things into English, right? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to learn from them and their videos, or sitting down at their feet and learning, and then be able to try to package that in a way to explain it in English. Of course, I'm not perfect, and I'm sure there's people far better than me, but I try to do what I can. But yeah, I mean, getting back to this thing, it's just that, so I never really believed in it. I kind of was just on that from the beginning. I needed a little clarification on some points. And then I've been on that ever since. I've been making videos on it, having conversations. And as you said, people truly who still have some semblance of the fitrah intact, I believe that this is the natural conclusion that they'll wind up at. And it's not only me saying this, and I've pointed this out in a video, and I'm actually going to make another video on this soon about this very topic, is that, and this is the reality, people can look it up, classical Ashari scholars themselves, whether it be As-Sanusi, Al-Ghazali, Juwayni, Arazi, these different scholars, all of them explicitly teach that what's called the awam, or the laity, the lay people, the people that you see on the street, whatever they are, they're not Asharis. They don't have their belief. And in actual fact, Ghazali specifically says that if you tried to teach them, 99 out of 100 of them, even after you try to teach them, still would not accept it, right? So this is the reality. So when they say, and this going back to the fiqh thing, yes, unfortunately, from our perspective, many of the scholars of fiqh today, of the madhahib, have embraced Asharism or Maturidi creed. But the reality is the people who claim under that, like who are students of them, right? Or even not, like they'll say, oh, but Jake, mostly all Pakistanis are Hanafi, so the ones who live in Pakistan, so they're all Maturidi and Ashari. That's not true. They don't even either know what it is, or even if they accept that label, they don't actually believe in the things that those madhabs of Aqidah actually teach. And this is the reality. This is not Jake saying this. This is not brother Jake and John saying this, or even Athari scholars saying this. It's not from Ibn Taymiyyah. This is Al-Ghazali, Arazi, As-Sanusi, Juwayni. This is them saying this, not us. And I've demonstrated that. It's the reality. You go on the street and you ask these people, are you an Ashari? Are you a Maturidi? They'll either say, excuse me, bro, I don't know what you're saying. Or they may say yes, and then you ask them about specific distinctive Ashari beliefs, and they don't believe it.
It's so similar to, in a good way, I mean, but it's similar to, like we said,
to Christianity.
You go to some of the Catholics, it's, oh, you're Jesus, Son of God. But they don't mean that. Once you dig a bit deeper.
And they don't believe he's God.
Exactly. You know, so it's the same with these people they've been labeled actually because of a government or whatever it may be. But once you dig deeper, they're on the fitrah. They're basic people who pray to God. They go to the masjid. They go to work, and they're busy with their families. You know, they're not chosen. They don't even think about Aqidah in a deep way, in terms of you know.
No. And actually, their own scholars, the classical scholars, say, like Ghazali says, we shouldn't even try to teach them, because if we do, we'll leave them more confused, and they won't accept what we believe. They say this. This is not from Jake, and you know.
And obviously, from our perspective, the default is the Athari position,
right.
Like, you know, the fitrah,
Fitrah, right? Yeah, because we have Quran and Sunnah that teaches.
You won't find a layperson questioning, you know, the attributes of Allah. They know. They have a meaning of it. They don't think deep about it. They don't.
They have a basic understanding.
Exactly.
But I do want to caution, just so we don't get accused of anything with the audience, that when Brother John and I are making the comparison with the Christians, we're not saying that the Asharis are kuffar.
No.
We're just saying in one way, basically, and this is what I was going to tell you before, right? One thing is that the Asharis especially the lay people who maybe wear the label but they don't have a good, deep understanding of it, and even many of the scholars, because I know this. I mean, I've sat down with them. It's one thing that they don't really truly understand the Salafi Athari position, but here's the other thing. They don't even understand their own position. And I'm not saying this arrogantly. I've seen it time again. They don't understand what they're supposed to believe. So many times in conversation, we need to teach them, hey, what you're saying is not what we believe. You have a misunderstanding of our beliefs. Then we have to, sorry to say, we have to kind of teach them what their classical scholars say that they're supposed to believe. And then once they agree that, yeah, that's what their scholars say, then we explain to them why it's wrong. Exactly. Or even many times, especially the lay people, they say, oh, well, we don't believe that. So then they recognize, oh, we're not actually Ashari.
And as you said, we know some scholars online, which, they've been going deep into some of these books of the scholars of the Asharis, and some of the statements are, subhanAllah, very dangerous.
They're shocking. They're shocking,
which
right?
Even modern day Asharis wouldn't
They don't
accept.
know. They don't know about.
Well, if they heard it, they would deny it.
They would not accept it.
They would reject it.
Exactly.
And so, subhanAllah, it's such a big topic, and we just ask people to be sincere and try to hear the other side. Because like you say, if you've been told all your life that Jesus is God, like as a Christian, it takes a bit of, getting used to. You're not just going to change to Islam straight away. No. So if you imagine people have been raised in certain communities with, how people are with fiqh. They won't even accept different fiqh, never mind Aqidah. It's so you've got to realize that people should be open-minded and realize that, these are early traditions. And from our perspective, all the four Imams of the Madhabs who are on the correct Aqidah.
Right, 100%. There's no question about that.
We love them all. We respect their fiqh. And understand they all tried their best. And none of them are correct in everything.
No,
that's the point.
Right, exactly.
And we're not anti-madhab.
No.
We not necessarily force people to have a madhab. But these are the things that people are told about.
They have the wrong understanding of us. And, about this fiqh point, actually, I want to bring this up because for people who don't know, I made hijrah and I'm living in Morocco now. And it's supposed to be a Maliki country in terms of fiqh, right? So it's true in the sense that when you go to the masajid, which are, the Imams are put there by government, and I'm not saying anything bad about that at all. They're doing the prayer according to Maliki fiqh, right? And so one of my teachers in Arabic actually is a Moroccan, and but he's not very knowledgeable in the fiqh and everything like that, especially the different madhahib. And what it is now, since we live in a global world, and the honest reality is, a lot of the Moroccans don't actually pray like Malikis. They pray similar to what they see online, which the honest reality of it is a lot of it is coming from Saudi, right? So, or different places in the Gulf. And so my teacher, my Arabic teacher a few times, he goes, Jake, I recently stopped going to the mosque, right? In the masjid in Morocco. I said, why? Why would you stop doing that? We have an obligation as men, to try to go and pray in the masjid as much as we can, especially in a Muslim country. He goes, well, I don't think they're practicing the Islam correctly. They're not doing the prayer correctly and all of these kind of things, and I think it's bad. And so I'm like, okay, what's one example of that, right? So just for people who's ever prayed in Morocco or those who don't know, is that one of the distinctive features or rulings of the Maliki madhab, which is well known, or what we call mashhur, something that's well known in the madhab, is that the way to end the prayer is only with one taslim. So they turn to the right and they say, Assalamu alaikum. And that's it, the prayer is done. They don't say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and then turn to the other side, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. They don't do that. So,
and it's completely fine in every madhab. The prayer is over.
It doesn't nullify the prayer. It doesn't invalidate the prayer or anything. But because a person like this, my teacher, Miskeen, I'm not saying it in a bad way, but doesn't really know that much about this. And the same thing for a lot of people who And what you see actually in the mosque is the imam will do that, but then the people behind every single person behind them does two taslims, right? So this is to show that forget about Ashari. I'm saying even Maliki and the people who go to the masjid every day, right? Every day, even 5 times a day, like some of the dedicated people who are in the masjid all the time. Even the imam is doing one taslim and everybody behind it. And I'm just sitting there thinking, and I don't have any problem with it. I'm just thinking, like, that's interesting. But a lot of people, they don't know this, right? You know.
So he thought maybe this might nullify the salah.
Yeah, he's like, what is this? And then there were other things he was mentioning. And then when he put it together, he, thought like this maybe is some government conspiracy. I don't know what he was thinking, but which it's not at all. All of those things that the imam is doing,
correct.
It's correct according to the Maliki madhab. Now, you may think, and according to other madhab, you may think there's stronger opinions on certain things, and that's fine, but it doesn't invalidate the prayer. There's nothing wrong with it in that aspect, But I'm just saying that, like, and then when you come to Aqidah, it's even, kind of less knowledge.
We're from the West, so we've come into contact with all these opinions. Yeah. We've seen everyone prays different in the mosque, you know. But when you start going into the Muslim world, they're not so familiar with different fiqh, so it can be quite shocking.
Especially because they're less traveled.
Yeah, I remember when I first saw someone praying with the hands at the side, I was like, astaghfirullah,
Yeah, you think he's Shia, right? You think he's part of the Shia.
So, but obviously, the more you travel, you realize, okay, there's different opinions. These things are we're not strict.
But a lot of these people have never left. For example, many Moroccans have never left Morocco. Yeah. Many Pakistanis never left Pakistan.
So did you explain to him that this is...
I explained to him. Alhamdulillah, I explained to him, I went through, not because I'm very knowledgeable in fiqh, right? But I studied enough that I know some of these basic masail, some of these basic different rulings and stuff and issues. And so I went through like 4 or 5 of them and I said, no, this is okay, here's why. Here, this is another one, this is okay, here's why. And I gave him the dalil from the Maliki perspective and explained to him. And then he started going back to the mosque the next day, alhamdulillah. So it was good, but I'm just saying that that's why we have to try to, and this is what my dawah, inshallah. I know I spend a lot of time speaking about Christianity and stuff, but always, even when I'm bringing up these different things about Christianity, from my perspective, it's in mind to strengthen the iman of the Muslims, to give them more information, as well as better understanding of what we believe when it comes to the aqidah and why and things like that. And I believe that's the most important thing, because just how we can't assume that the Christians know what Islam teaches, a lot of times we can't assume that the Muslims know what Christianity teaches. So we have to explain to give them the proper understanding to give dawah. And many of them don't understand the fiqh and aqidah when it comes to Islam properly. So we have to explain it.
One thing, when you started studying now Athari Aqidah, how did you do that? Because you don't just have a basic or even a good level of Aqidah. I've seen that in a lot of your debates. I mean, there's one thing having the knowledge of your Aqidah, but there's one thing debating it. Yeah. You have to have a very high level. I mean, I see you have a lot of quotes from many of the scholars. You know the different nuances within the
differences of opinion
of the Aqidah. Yeah. So I mean, how did you study this, especially as a English speaker? And,
so I've studied both online and in person with teachers, with actual shuyukh. That's one thing. And then before I make a video, especially I'm not sure about something, or if I write about something, I send it to shuyukh or students of knowledge who I know are much more knowledgeable. I mean, I say, am I understanding this correctly? Is it okay to make the video in this way and explain it in this way? And so I have people who are above me, who I know more than me, who I have the ability to go to. Those who I've either studied with directly, or those who I know from the dawah directly, who I may have not studied with directly, but who I have access to ask questions anytime I want, and confirm that what I'm publicizing and putting out there is actually correct. So that's what I do, And I mean, sometimes they'll tell me, no, Jake, you're misunderstanding, this is not correct. Whether it be from the Ashari perspective or maybe a few times representing our own position. No, you have to word it like this or explain it like this. And so, yeah, that's basically what I do, because I know that I can't be a rogue and just go out here and say whatever I want. This is not the correct from Islam.
Yeah.
So I try to do that. And again, I'm not perfect. Maybe I've made some mistakes. But then if I do, I try to correct it and explain it slightly differently in the correct way next time. So that's basically all it is. You know, I'm not, like I said, I'm not like the smartest guy or anything. Even when it comes back to the Christianity stuff, you know, I showed you like some of my books. I just read a lot. I just read a lot of books and study and try to, the people who I know more than me, go to them, learn from them, make sure I'm saying and explaining things correctly. And that's really all it is, you know. I mean, on that point, and not to sound like high and mighty or anything, like I'm the greatest da'i, because I'm certainly not, but I just wish that, especially in the English-speaking dawah scene, that other du'at would be doing that more, that they would have shuyukh or students of knowledge that they go to, that they respect, whether it be knowing things about Islam and the aqidah or fiqh, or even when it comes to Christianity, and going to them to confirm that, hey, their understanding is correct, or they're explaining it the right way, and making sure they're doing things properly from both a knowledge perspective and a behavior perspective, because we have to be honest, sometimes the du'at or people who are claiming to be du'at are out of pocket. They're not acting appropriately. They're saying things that are clearly wrong, that contradict the aqidah.
And just to put in here, we don't mean going to a sheikh and giving him your version of something and getting his approval.
Yeah.
You know, that sometimes happens.
Twisting things.
Yeah, like to get a kind of fatwa or an approval for something.
No.
Where the sheikh wouldn't, if he knew exactly what you're doing or saying, he wouldn't be backing you.
And that happens a lot, and that's a sort of dishonesty.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a dishonesty, especially for the shuyukh who aren't really clued up on what's happening in the English-speaking dawah scene, and rightly so. They don't have enough time to be looking at it. And maybe they're English, they're not fluent, or maybe they don't know much of English at all. So yeah, you have to be careful. You just, look, if we're really interested in spreading Islam and spreading the truth, don't do these dishonest tactics. Go to the sheikh or the student of knowledge and ask them directly, and do it so that you're making sure that on the day of judgment, that you're not actually scared about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to do to you, because you had the right intention, you tried your best, okay? You know, don't do it try to get him to be giving you the fatwa, to twist it in a way that you can say, yes, Sheikh so-and-so said this and he agrees with me. And then when it comes out, he's like, and finds out that you did that, no, he actually doesn't believe that, right? You know.
And we do need more students and those people who have studied, graduated, to stand up and speak about what they've learned. You know, it's not all theory. We need practical. We need people to come out, and I know sometimes you might feel like you're the only one who's addressing it. Trust me, I know many people who are so happy that you are addressing it, and they're backing you, and they're happy to see that somebody is doing it, and they would love to do it, but they don't have the confidence or maybe the knowledge. And, you know, even including myself, you know, I don't have that level to be debating these things, but we're happy that somebody is addressing it, you know, in that way. And to see that it is being dealt with, and know that there are many people who are grateful for your work in this field, because it's not easy. As I said, I think the majority of the reason is because the Ahlul Hadith, they're not well versed in the philosophy. They don't
like
want
the English terminology.
Yeah, the English terminology. They don't want to do injustice to it and put people off the correct. They don't really want to be that guy, you know. So I think that might be something that students of knowledge need to look into. Maybe that's something you might be able to help, a crash course on philosophy in a halal way to understand these things, and be able to present the Aqidah in the 21st century to the Western audience type thing. This might be something you might be able to.
Inshallah,
think,
definitely.
Because I think that's the only thing holding people back, really. I think that's the main thing. They have knowledge of their Aqidah and everything, but defending it means you have to have knowledge of
what other side, what they believe, and to be honest with you, especially, let's be honest, when you deal with certain people who, although we believe their belief is wrong, they can present it in such a way or get very technical to try to confuse people and beguile the audience with their speech. And some of them do this intentionally in a dishonest way. So if you don't know how to, and to be clear, when we talk about philosophy, we're not saying we use philosophy to prove the aqidah. We don't believe this. We're not saying we,
exactly.
What we mean is, basically what I try to do is, because I've studied what they believe and I've studied from a Western perspective, to break down the confusing language and things that they're using to say, okay, you said ba 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 ba, which most people don't even know what you're saying. What you're really saying is this. Break it down into simple English and get them to commit to that's what you're really saying, and then we explain from our aqidah why it's wrong, based on what Quran, Sunnah, and the Salaf actually taught. And that's what we're talking about. We're not talking.
If you can clearly articulate and break down what they're supposed to believe,
exactly,
and what we actually believe, the truth becomes clear.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and that's it. The sincere people will recognize it.
Right. So, I mean, this is one thing, making sure that you have people above you to check you, more knowledgeable people that to you know, actually check your work and things like that. And as I said, I'm definitely not perfect. I'm far from perfect with that. But I think a lot of du'at are not even trying to do that, or the people that they are going to, without necessarily mentioning names, are not actually good people to, for them to be their, you know, shuyukh or people above them who are informing them on what to do and what to say. So that's one thing. And then the second thing, and this is a reality, and I have to check my own intentions, we all do, but I think for some of these so-called du'at in the English-speaking world, the popularity, the fame, sometimes the money, has really gone to their head, and it has compromised the da'wah. It has compromised their da'wah to where they're more concerned with sensationalism, with clicks, with likes, with views, with money, with getting invited to certain places and going to certain places, and you know, people who are famous taking pictures with you and all this kind of things. Which, you know, may Allah protect us from that. But that's the honest reality. And I'm not saying 100% of the time and that they don't have any moments of good da'wah or good intentions, but I think for a lot of these du'at, it has gotten to their heads. And you know, sometimes we have to correct some of these things publicly when they say certain things or behave in such a way that is totally unacceptable to Islam, because they're public figures, and a lot of non-Muslims or even, like, you know, naive Muslims are watching them. So we have to be careful what we're doing and saying.
You know, these subscribers are not going to get us to paradise.
No.
You know, nothing should come in the way of the truth.
No.
You know, and the reality is, and I mean this in the most respectful way possible, I'm happy to have tea and coffee with all my brothers around the world, right? But I'm just being realistic. The majority of these subscribers, you won't have the time of day for them.
No.
I'm just being honest.
Right.
They don't listen, they don't actually really digest the content and learn anything. It's just about following the hype or the fitna. And, you know, it's not of much value, really. You know, and we're valuing these subscribers and likes, way overvaluing, putting too much value into these things, really. You know, I mean, even when we look at the watch time of the videos, it's never 100%.
No, not even close.
You know, things like that. So, I mean, you know, don't get caught up in these subscribers and likes. It's about the truth, and alhamdulillah, Allah will make that truth get to the place where it is. I mean, if you look at the famous story of Imam Ahmed, I'm not sure if it's authentic, the one where he wasn't recognized. He went to a city and the baker, you know, recognized him.
Right.
You know, the story is whether it's true or not. The point is that these scholars were not even known. People didn't even know their faces. They knew the names of Imam Ahmed or Imam Shafi or whoever, but the faces were not known. We have an extra level of fitness today where our faces are known, you know, and we're being recognized, and sometimes people don't even know who we are exactly. They just recognize, they know you. And that's the point. It's like we're putting so much value into it, or value, and in reality, you know, 20 years ago, you'd be happy if you filled a room with 50 people in an event, or 100 people come to the masjid for a lecture. And I value that so much more when you have 50, 100 people in the masjid at a lecture for a few hours or 1 hour even. they digest something, they take something away and they value it. You know, it's so again for the dua, just try to be, you know, try your best to be sincere, and like you say, the truth is the most important thing. You know, don't sacrifice that just for the sake of, you know, views or following, or you're going to upset somebody. And we're not saying cause fitna and argue with people.
Right.
We've seen through your recent dialogues that it can be done in a good way, in a peaceful
Inshallah.
way, where everyone can learn something.
Inshallah. Yeah, and then I just want to comment on this just very briefly that, people who know me, like, who you wouldn't even know from online, but like my actual friends behind the scenes who know me and talk to me about these kind of things, they know, because I say this all the time and they're probably tired of hearing it. But, you know, for people who don't know me, I was on something called the PBD podcast, right? Patrick Bet-David, he's got several million subscribers or whatever it was, and it was a big video, and we debated these two Christians, and it went viral. And the person who I was debating with, the other Muslim, now, you know, we don't see eye to eye, and I think he has very serious problems. But that's another story for another time. But
you wasn't the first Italian he interviewed. I mean, he had Sammy the Bull, you know.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, it's true actually. But yeah, so we went there and we had a debate with these Christians, and alhamdulillah, I think we did fairly well. And the video went viral. So now, you know, I get invited to events time to time to give lectures and give like dawah workshops and things like that. And I really, just like what you said, I really love going to these things. Even if there's only 50 or 100 people in the room who are dedicated, who are actually paying attention, or sitting there with a notebook, taking notes, or with a laptop or phone nowadays sometimes. When it's time for Q&A, they're asking very informative questions. You can tell that they're really listening and understanding and trying to understand. People who then are taking some of my material and implementing it into their dawah to show me they really understand what I'm trying to do and what I'm saying. That, even if it's one person there, makes so much more and means so much more to me than some random like on Twitter or whatever it is, or a YouTube comment that says, yeah, go Jake, get him, or something like that. I mean, I don't really care about that, because I want to know, did that person actually understand what I'm saying? Did they understand the da'wah and the argument? Can they use it for themselves and benefit them in their own understanding and giving it to other people?
You said something yesterday, you know, there's a difference between that quality and somebody just watching it while eating pizza. You know,
exactly.
You know, it's, you know, that's as far as it goes.
Exactly. So, you know, sometimes related to the PBD thing, I go to these events in person, and they come up to me and say, oh, Brother Jake, we know you from the PBD podcast. And I hate that. I really hate that, because then I say to them, well, what else do you know about me? Do you like, or even within the podcast itself, can you think of something that I said that really, you know, like you found beneficial, that benefited you from an iman perspective or a dawah perspective that you can utilize in your dawah or something like that? And if they can't think of anything, I say, you know, I'm not saying this to make you feel bad, but for my dawah, especially for the Muslims, I want you guys to actually benefit from it. I don't want it to be viewed as like a football match where you're just kind of cheering for your team and you just, oh, you know, Brother Jake's face and he seems like he's smart, or something like that, and you're cheering me on against people who you don't agree with. I don't want that. I want you to truly benefit from what I'm saying or doing. And that doesn't mean that everything I'm saying is beneficial, but hopefully, inshallah, you can benefit something from it and then explain it to people. If you can't, then I really don't care. I'm not really interested in it. I'm not fussed about it. Like, I want people to actually use my
and
stuff.
they should understand how much work goes into this research. I mean, I've seen your library, you know, some of these books we buy for research are over £100. You know, and it's like people don't realize how much we invest into this research.
Time, money, effort.
Yeah,
exactly.
And just for one little argument, you know,
exactly.
You know, and that's as far as it goes. But it's a powerful argument.
Right.
Don't just think you just pulled it out of your dreams.
Exactly.
You know, if it is a good argument, it's because it's been well researched.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. A lot of people sometimes say, "Oh, Brother Jake, where should we start off? I mean, what did you do? How did you learn this stuff?" I mean, and they think it's kind of like Google, where you just type it in, boom, you got it, and it's end of story. And I say this hopefully with all sincerity. I'm not the smartest guy. I mean, I think I'm okay. I'm definitely not the smartest guy. Why do I know some of the things? It's just I have spent more time in just simply sitting down and reading, which a lot of people today, unfortunately, don't really read. You know, we still have people who do, but it's less so, I think, than before. So my thing is just read, go seek knowledge. And when it comes to Islam, go seek knowledge from the shuyukh. When it comes to some of these other things, maybe you can benefit from me on like Christianity and those topics. Go sit down and actually read, see what the other side is saying, try to understand it, you know, develop yourself in your own arguments, test it out with other people. That's the way to do it. I mean, it doesn't happen overnight, you know. I'm not like some brilliant guy or anything.
And always remember it's for the sake of Allah.
Inshallah,
you have to be
of
sincere.
course, yeah.
You have to always keep that.
إنك لا تهدي من أحببت ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء